If I don't do it a lot, it's not great.
It's amazing. I spoke to you about it 2 weeks ago.
Sure, I do. With the greatest respect, I have no recollection of it whatsoever.
That's okay. Story of my life. Story of my life.
Can you recall the setting in which you discussed it?
Yes, I said, Ben, do you want to join Cameo? But we are live on YouTube, so I want to welcome everybody to the world according to that man who's now on Cameo, Ben Stein. You can hire Ben to wish you a happy birthday, bar mitzvah, I guess a memorial. In memoriam, you can pretty much have him say what
I'm certainly
you
willing.
can pretty much have him say whatever you want if the price is right. And
well, that's not.
But it's Ben Stein, so the price is
not true. It has to be something I want to
but
say.
the price is always right for the price is always right for Ben Stein.
No,
and we're a little slap happy on this. Oh, sorry, Ben.
Not at all. The price isn't always right at all. I mean, to say happy birthday,
Ben, for
God,
you.
you'd have to be crazy not to wish somebody's mother happy birthday.
There you are. And on that note, welcome everybody to the world according to Ben Stein. Welcome everybody in the YouTube chat. And been having a lot of issues with Parler. It's been down, so you're not the only one if you've been having those issues. We are on Rumble. Remember that, rumble.com. Go to Rumble, rumble us, rumble on, sing that song. We are joined tonight from 93.1 WIBC, BAM, the future of conservative talk radio, Rob Kendall.
Ben, how did you and Lovitz become buddies? Because Lovitz is my favorite.
Years and years ago, I had a talk show on Comedy Central called Turn Ben Stein On. It ran for only 3 seasons, and he was one of our guests, and he was a very delightful guest. He had a broken leg when he came on. He came on in a wheelchair, and he couldn't have been more pleasant. And very, very infrequently, I run into him. And I ran into him at the Beverly Hills Hotel Pool restaurant yesterday, and he came over with another man. I think he was probably Australian or New Zealander, and they told me about this. They said, told me about it, sounded great. I said, sure, no problem at all.
And there you are. Mm-hmm. And Rob, your hair is looking amazing. It's like you are living proof of hair transplants being a good thing. And also, let's welcome the man from the simplelifenow.com. He's living off the grid. He served our country for over 20 years. Simplelife.com, now founder Gary Collins.
God bless him. God bless him.
Thank you for being here. And I just want to say I'm not on Cameo, but I'll tell you to fuck off for free.
And of course, this show would not be complete without actor, writer, provocateur, saint, sinner, Cameo. What's it called again?
Cameo
aficionado, lawyer, but of course, last but not least, Dr. Benjamin.
And I might add that it's a kind of amazing idea that this person thought of. Just go up to well-known people and ask them to call your mother-in-law.
It's a great idea. You get a little cut. You're doing great. I mean, it's
great.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And on that note,
it's really great.
Let's welcome Benjamin Jeremy Stein, America's humble servant. And it is great. I hope 1,000 people use it. You deserve it.
More than 1,000 will use it.
What?
I think way more than 1,000.
I meant more than 1,000 people will call you.
I think more than 1,000 will call. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. God bless you. God bless you.
God, we're so in the weeds about this. I'm saying that would be amazing if 1,000 people signed up to hear from you. That would be amazing. Now, let's go for 10,000. We're shooting for the moon over here on the world according to Ben Stein. But I want to get right to this. Let's get to this Liz Cheney thing. If you guys out there are not familiar with this absolutely crazy story, Liz Cheney was behind the op-ed in the Washington Post on January 3rd. That
who is Liz Cheney again? Could you remind us of that?
She's a congresswoman from Wyoming. She is Dick Cheney's daughter. And that's pretty much all that could be said about her. She's a never Trumper. She looks like a miserable woman and a miserable person. I say that with all the sincerity in my heart, not because she's gay, not because she's Dick Cheney's daughter. But being Dick Cheney's daughter could be, we know not to go duck hunting with him. But I want to get to that. She says the op-ed, Ben, is she's got 10 former secretaries of defense, and I believe plus her father, because she was scared Trump was going to use the military, that he wasn't going to give up power and he was going to use the military. Now, we discussed this, and I found it ironic of a Cheney being threatened by using the military because they seem so adept at it. But you got even angrier at this than I did. So,
but I think it's one thing to use the military in a foreign war, perhaps mistakenly, and to send them in harm's way for an errand which perhaps did not need to be done. But to imply that the president is going to use the military to seize power in the United States of America by a coup d'etat and in defiance of the Constitution is simply unheard of. There was no reason for that letter to be circulated by those former secretaries of defense. There was no reason for Liz Cheney to stir that up. It's just a complete fantasy on her part, and it's extremely, extremely seditious and a very basic attack on truth, on the Constitution, on the country as a whole. I have to say, when my wife asked me about it a few minutes ago, her nurse said, well, I guess just politics. And I said, no, it's not just politics. I think it's an issue of mental illness.
No, I think it's more, I think it's, I don't want to say treasonous because people throw that word around quite a bit.
It's not treasonous. Under the Constitution consists of aid and comfort to the enemy in time of war. That's in the Constitution.
No. Yeah, but here's the major issue, Rob Kendall, is more than that is we constantly talk about this, but there's certain times when Republican leadership is just so abysmally absent that this is allowed to go on in the party, a mini coup, as you would say, within the party, and nothing gets done.
Well, I think it underscores that right now in Washington, there are exceptions, but by and large, there are minimal differences between the Republicans and Democrats. I think there's a lot of Republicans who were just fine with Trump, with Joe Biden being in there because they hated Trump because he spoke for the people.
Well, I think it's more than that. I was saying to my wifey, Karl Marx, a horrible, horrible, horrible human being, but not an idiot, said all history is the history of class struggle. And I think this was class struggle. This was the patricians, the well-bred, Ivy League educated, not that I have anything against that, people against an upstart like Trump, although he was Ivy League educated too, in part. So it was a class struggle, but where Liz Cheney got off being the person who organized it, as I say, I think that has to do, there's some issue of paranoid schizophrenia there. I do play a doctor on TV, but I think there is.
And you are a doctor. Ben, you are a doctor.
I am a doctor of laws, but there is some fairly serious mental health issue there.
Gary, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it was January 3rd. He didn't do anything unreasonable except not accept results. He had never invoked any threat of the military. We had a year of evidence of him not imposing martial law in many cases when he could have and probably should have in certain states. And yet she is throwing this around, another salacious, sick story. What are your thoughts? I know your thoughts on the Cheneys, but what are your thoughts on this specifically?
They're good shots.
That's funny.
But it's I don't understand the Trump hysteria. I don't understand what he provokes in certain people to make them lose their mind.
Absolutely.
I mean, they
right.
just go off the rails. The Trump delusion syndrome is just, it's something, as a guy who worked in law enforcement, has many psychological courses and interrogations. It's something fascinating to watch people get so wound up over someone who literally has very little power over them or anything. Or Trump derangement syndrome, sorry. But for that, what happens is what I believe is you don't want to upset. I've talked about the upsetting the apple cart, right? There is very little difference between Democrats and Republicans today. All they give two shits about is themselves, enriching their friends, and basically raising Cain. I mean, they don't do anything. Think of what's happened recently, and this is a weird example, but we know for a fact, we have it documented now when they released the Navy footage of the Tic Tac footage, right? Of a UFO that we could not identify. It goes public. The Defense Department releases it. And then the Intel or Defense Intel committees, only a couple people actually asked to be briefed on it. We don't know what these are. They're in our airspace and they're showing up fairly regularly. That paints a picture to you how disconnected these ass clowns are. We have things inside of our airspace in our country that we can't identify whether they're hostile or not, and we don't know what they are. And the Defense Intel Committee goes, where's the next defense contract? I need to make some money. I don't care. I mean, it's insanity. We live, I don't even know what to think. Liz Cheney's an idiot. I mean, maybe her and AOC can write a memoir together.
Yeah, I know, Gary, that's really mild for you, just calling her an idiot. She's an abominable she's just horrific. And
she always has been. The thing is, she always has been. And she has been given a free pass because of her dad and because she checks a couple boxes. Honestly. Yeah. And I don't care what you are. A shitty person's a shitty person. I don't care. But she's been given a free ride. She is a terrible person. And I agree. To do that to someone, to do that to a standing president, to make that up, you got to be out of your mind.
Of your own party.
Yeah, you got to be out of your mind. Yeah.
No, I think she's out of her mind.
And you see, she is out of her mind, and most of them are out of their mind, Ben. For years, we've seen you know, you're the one that said we've seen a million stories without evidence or proof. And the problem is the last line of defense, which is the media. You know, if you turned on Trump in any which way, whether it was Romney, whether it was Cheney, whoever it was, you became the belle of the ball for that moment. And they think it's going to be a lasting thing, not realizing that it's just a momentary lapse. But it's because you were on their side for a moment.
Hey Ben, I have a question for you. You were around these people for years, and you are a truly brilliant person.
No, I'm not a truly brilliant person.
You are the genius Gump. So yes, you are a truly brilliant person. I mean, these people to me strike me as some of the dumbest people walking the face of the earth. One, are they? And two, do they recognize it? What are these people like in person?
Well, the best example I can give you is at one point, a certain president, not Mr. Nixon, invited me to come to cabinet meetings on a fairly frequent basis. And I was just horrified at what I saw. The cabinet members, secretaries of various departments, were just extremely ordinary people, like small town, medium-sized city, small businessmen, and no more or less than that. And the idea that a person is a great genius because he or she is Secretary of Defense is just nonsense, I'm afraid. And the idea that a person is particularly smart because he or she is a congressman, a congresswoman, I've already told you what Mr. Nixon said about that so many times. I'm embarrassed to repeat it, but I will. Mr. Nixon said, you have to understand, Ben, that your basic Republican congressman is not fit to be dog catcher. So I don't, I mean, they're not particularly fantastically smart people, but I'll tell you what, except at Yale Law School and at Columbia Graduate School, Columbia School of Economics, Columbia Economics undergraduate, I didn't see that many smart people anywhere in my life. I haven't met that many smart people.
I have a quick question for you after we get back from this, because it's actually, I'm sort of fascinated by this line of subjects. So if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to That Man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. want to thank everybody that's still having the YouTube chat. It means a lot on a Saturday night. Don't forget to rumble us. Don't forget to find us on you can't find us because you can't log on. And don't forget to download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts or wherever you could download podcasts. And now you could get Ben, and I'm serious, on Cameo. It is 100% worth it.
But I think you're giving the impression that I'm writing essays on Cameo.
No, you're not. It's wishing people happy birthday.
Right. Someone calls into them.
Yeah. People know what Cameo is, Ben.
Okay.
It's a very huge app.
I did not know it was until yesterday at about 1 o'clock.
And there you are. And but you can find Ben on Cameo if you want a specialized birthday or voicemail. I think that would be pretty cool if somebody called your voicemail and said, and you were able to say anyone would be an amazing.
I don't think I'll do that one. I don't think I'll do that one.
You don't do that one? Okay. Just killed it for me. But I want to ask you a question as to get back to this. So you've always known that these people aren't smart. Some
of them are very, very, very smart. And
right.
A lot of them are not.
But a majority, a lot of them, Ben. So let's just say a lot of them. And going by what Nixon said, you could always George Will us and say that story as many times as you please. But when did you start really believing? There's a difference between not being smart and being being dangerous.
Right.
And
I think I saw that, Matt. I saw that as a very young child. And what I'm about to say here is going to make some people here watching this have a heart attack. But when I was a young kid, I saw that in the Army McCarthy hearings, because here was Joe McCarthy, who was going around accusing various people of being communists, and they were. There was hardly anyone he accused of being a communist who wasn't a communist. And the whole media of America got furiously mad at him, attacked him, said what a dangerous person he was. But he was finding communists in the government, and but the power structure just did not want to hear from an upstart farm boy from Appleton, Wisconsin, about some of their fair-haired boys. Now, I back up a tiny little bit, and I'm sorry, this is ancient history for most of the people watching this. There was a man named Alger Hiss, who was a very high State Department official. Some very bad stuff he passed on to the Soviet Union as a spy for the Soviet Union caused the Korean War. Nixon and McCarthy went after him, especially Nixon, and they were roundly criticized by the liberals and the beautiful people in the media. They were terribly criticized for that, but it turned out Alger Hiss really was a communist spy, and when the Venona decrypts were released after the fall of the Soviet Union, it was revealed that, in fact, for a long time, that the Soviet Union had a number of spies in the State Department, so, and perhaps some in the White House under President Roosevelt. So the idea that people could call someone who's saying obviously the truth about something very, very important, call him a traitor and a horrible, scummy person, occurred to me when I was really very, very young. And I had neighbors when I was a child in Silver Spring, Maryland, very nice people, delightful neighbors, really, really nice neighbors. But they were communists, and they would defend Stalin. And I would say, but Stalin killed 30 million civilians, maybe more. No, he was advancing the class struggle. He was advancing towards a communist paradise. And these people were graduates of prestige schools. One of them had a very prestigious job in government before he had been outed as a communist. I was seeing it all along. I saw it in spades as an older man with Teddy Kennedy. Here was a guy who was clearly not right in the head, clearly a murderer, clearly a drunk, and yet was applauded to the rafters by the left wing of the Democratic Party, and in fact by the whole Democratic Party, and in fact by the whole media. What was going on? What on earth was going on? And I saw that over and over again. I saw McNamara, a guy with astounding credentials. As a boy wonder, he'd been head of Ford Motor, a huge job. He did lied to get us deeper and deeper into the Vietnam War. I saw a lot of dangerous people out there, really, really dangerous people.
No, I mean, and excellently said. I want to get to. I'll second that more. Get in depth in that in a second. But Rob, I want to ask you the same question. More the line of when you become political and you start having belief systems, Rob, and you look up to certain people. You believe in party. You're willing to
party hardy.
What? Sorry, Ben.
Party hardy.
You're going up and you party hardy, yeah, because there's nothing like says party like the grand old party. And oh, I got a good laugh. And sorry that I made you cough at the same time. We both are suffering from chest stuff. But Rob, when did it become noticeable to you that what Ben just brought up, that there is absolutely people believe in their job? When did you realize they didn't care about you as you were going to bed at night?
I tell you the exact time. So I worked, I was elected to public office. I worked for Mike Pence when he ran for governor in 2012. And I was a firm believer. Mike Pence could sell ice to Eskimos. He's one of the greatest political orators of our time. And I was all in. You believed he was going to storm the Bastille when he was governor of Indiana. And I got in there and I was hired as the pharmacy board director for the state of Indiana. And they sold me this bill of goods of, we want you in there because you've got a business background. You've done great as an elected official reforming government. We want you to come in here and do this and on this specific area of state government. Okay, great. Went in there, and what you quickly realize is that the whole goal of government is to keep the hamster on the wheel, and that none of it really mattered. And
very good. That's really very good.
It's just to protect the guy in office. And I worked there for a year, and it was the most miserable year of my public life. It was horrific. It was awful. I fought with my bosses all the time. And you kept saying, Mike Pence can't believe this because he said something completely different on the campaign trail. And then you realize it doesn't matter.
No, you're as an exception.
But Nixon did do things differently, and Trump did things differently, and Reagan did things differently.
There's a few
presidents who did things differently.
Yes, there are a few, but we're talking about, but yes. And Gary, I want to get to you because you served 20 years, and you must have believed in God and country, or the universe and country, when you first signed up. Also, for whatever reasons you did. When did you really start losing your faith in the system?
Fairly quickly. I protected these idiots all over the world. And I had the privilege of seeing Madeleine Albright in a bathing suit, which I will never forget.
That's very, very funny. Is that true, or is that a joke?
No, that's dead serious. And it was a prank. She did it to me on purpose. It was a little thing she used to do to new agents, I guess. It had a lasting effect. I still remember it to this day. But I was
now we know why Bill Clinton appointed her. But go on.
I did a blog post on this about this today, and I've talked about it. Never confuse morals, a lack of morals, for intelligence. Politicians are really good at acting. You can act. I've met, and doing protection details, a lot of actors and actresses from Hollywood were around us, especially the Dalai Lama when I was on those details. And what you would see is I would meet these actors and actresses in person, and they were dumb as a bag of hammers. But I'd watched them play very good roles where they were very intelligent on the screen. And that's what a politician is. They're pretending to be smart, even though they're morally corrupt to the bone. And it's easy to do when you're playing by a different set of rules. If I don't have a moral compass, I can tell you anything that I want to get you to believe it. Me as a moral person, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to tell you the truth. So the truth is going to identify me for what I am, if that makes sense to you. It's a psychological game. It's what a sociopath does. They're not very bright, but they learn early on if they lie and they can basically manipulate you, they can get whatever they want and get you to do things that you would never do otherwise. It's how politicians act. And we used to say shit floats to the top. And the reason is because these people, if it wasn't for politics or being in high levels of government, they couldn't survive. They wouldn't even be able to get a normal paycheck. They were so stupid and lazy, most of them. but they had no moral conscience. That was the difference.
Okay, so Ben, that's
just out of curiosity, my dear friend Gary, where have you met a lot of people who do have a good moral conscience?
The people, see, I have a hard time, and I grew up in a small town, and I'm still friends with the people I grew up with today. So I've always had a very small circle of people, but where I met the most people who were morally bankrupt and corrupt were in politics and in the government, to be honest with you. But I want to take some of that back, because I met some of the most outstanding, hardworking, dedicated individuals in the government as well. But the game was rigged against them, and I was one of them. It was very difficult. I got told to lie on numerous occasions, and I didn't do it. And it cost me dearly for not doing it. But I would never cross the line. I always said that I'll never step over the line, because once you do, that's it. It's done. You can't go back. But I think I met a lot of nice people in the military, law enforcement, and also small towns. Small towns got their problems, but you have to look everyone in the eye every day. In a small town, you can't hide. If Gary's a jackass and he's at the drugstore, guess what? People are in the corner going, "That's the dude. He's a total douche. Everyone hates him." In a city, you can disappear. You can be a chameleon and just kind of disappear. I don't know. I'm lucky. I got good people around me. Hey, I know Ben Stein. Ben Stein's a good guy. Rob Kendall's a good guy. Judah,
That's what they all say. But Ben, I want to get this one more funny guy, Gary. I want to get this, and I want to get one more follow up on this, Ben. For years, there was no bigger defender of the Republican Party than Ben Stein. You've donated, you've written about it, but you've also
did several inaugural balls.
They just done yeoman's work, just true yeoman patriotic work as much as you could do. And obviously you served presidents. So you have served our country well. But you've also recently, and I've noticed this more and more, your belief in this party has become less and less.
I've been very, very disappointed that they have not stepped up during the Trump attacks. And the whole Trump administration was one long smear and character assassination against him. And I was very disappointed that the Republican Party did not step up in a much more aggressive way to defend him. I've been very disappointed during the election that they did not step up in a more aggressive way to campaign for him. I've been very, very disappointed since the election that they have not stood up in a more aggressive way to fight against the raging tide of socialism and extreme racialism in America, in which America is becoming the most racist industrial country since Nazi Germany. I'm stunned that the Republicans are not standing up more against the explicit racism of the Biden administration. That really disappoints me very, very much. The Republican Party was founded to be the party of being against racism, and now they're playing along with the Democrats, saying now the new civic religion of America is the worship of race.
No, it's absolutely frightening. The lack of Republican gumption, and it goes back to what Gary said. And for years, I know it was a big thing to not Rob Kendall talk about the military industrial complex. But I think it's become pretty clear that.
So it's weird, and I guess I want to ask you guys to chime in on this too. So my generation is the one who went and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I remember like very early on, buddies of mine who went to high school with, some people college with, they would come back and they would just be markedly different. And I would always ask them whether they, seen people die, they'd been involved in conflict, and I would ask them after I would visit with them for a while, essentially say, what you went and fought for, was it worth the payoff? And the payoff being, all this colossal calamity, and almost to a person they would say no. And it's like, those are the people willing to go and do it. And if they don't buy into it, why should any of us buy into it?
Well, I think you've got to differentiate here. There was a big difference between the two Gulf Wars. I mean, the first war was, it seems to me, even now, very much worth fighting. It would have been a terrible situation if Iraq had monopoly power over the export of petroleum. That would have been a very, very bad situation for the industrial world, including the United States. The second one was completely unnecessary, and it's frightening to think that we were told so many lies about it, and it's just terrifying. And what's kind of amazing is, as far as I know, no one responsible for the second Gulf War was ever held accountable for it.
None of them were. And I'm not sure if I know I read this. I'm not sure if this is accurate, but wasn't Saddam willing to allow?
Yes, I told you that. I read that just before the invasion of Iraq. He said, look, I see you guys being business. I don't think I can beat you. Here's what I'll do. I will stay in power, but you can have a brigade or a division or any size American unit you want stationed in the presidential palace to supervise me and make sure I don't do anything contrary to your wishes. Just let me stay there and don't kill me. And Bush didn't. I don't think Bush even replied.
I mean, that truly is. I mean, and here's always what to the people listening. I've known Ben for a long time. Ben is one of the most rational humans when it comes to many things, especially with politics. And when I hear Ben Stein, Gary, talking about the lack of accountability for that war, which was started pretty much by the Republican Party,
largely by Dick Cheney.
Right, Dick Cheney, that there were no repercussions at all. When Ben Stein gets on that, it's sort of a scary thing, Gary.
Well, I'll answer Rob's question. When you go overseas and you're there, what you do is the blinders are taken off. Most of these corrupt politicians and people in power no longer hide what they're doing or can as much. We used to call what I did diplomatic security service. We used to call it the diplomatic shopping service, because all we did was escort the Secretary of State overseas to hand other people money. And then they would go shopping. It was bizarre. It was the strangest thing you've ever seen. But also, with the military industrial complex as big as it is, the war hawks, we have made more millionaires and billionaires with our military industrial complex than any country has ever made any millionaires, except for maybe Russia. But with that, what happens is, like Dick Cheney was hell-bent because Dick Cheney saw money. People forget the first year of Desert Storm, he got a $48 million bonus from Halliburton, which he was still technically the CEO of, with no bid contracts. That's insane. That should have been nipped in the butt right away and said, sorry, buddy, you need to resign from your company. You need to sell your shares. You're out. You do not get to be involved. Instead, he stayed in power and he got $48 million the first year, and no one said shit about it. No one. And Dick Cheney literally killed tens of thousands of people in the name of money. He should be rotting in prison, period. I hate Dick Cheney. I do not like him. I have never liked him. I've been around these politicians. Again, they have no moral conscience. We are nothing but pawns in their game.
Gary, I think you should get a shirt that says, beautifully said, clap, clap, clap. That was
brilliant. But I'd love to see the link, because I must say, it's hard to believe he was allowed to do that. I never saw that story. And if you believe it, I've known you long enough to trust you. But boy, I'd love to see that.
You can send it to benstein@aol.com. But Gary, I want you to get a shirt that says,
it was well known that no bid contracts were all through Halliburton. They wrote in a special rule within the war when they declared war. I don't even think they declared war officially. They didn't. They never declared war. Yeah, I didn't think so.
They never.
But it was written in that Halliburton had the authority to do no bid contracts. It was insane. It was
So Gary, I
literally.
want you to get a shirt that says "I hate Dick Cheney," and on the back it says "and Liz too." And
Probably making a lot of money.
and on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. Apparently, somebody has a disagreement with us that they don't think we could talk about the soldiers or unless we've served. By that metrics, we can't talk about anything unless we've done that specific activity. So I will not be talking about 99.9%.
I don't understand why that is. I mean, why can't you explain the rationale?
I haven't followed up on his rationale yet, but that's his rationale. So no botany talk from me. But on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein.
I really would like to know what that rationale is. I was briefly in the Navy. My father-in-law was a lifelong military officer, West Point grad. My grandfather was in the Army during the Spanish-American War. My father was in the Navy in World War II. I don't get, why are we not allowed to talk about it?
I don't know. I'll wait for his answer. But on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. I'm actually fascinated by this conversation tonight. It's a conversation I, in my wildest dreams, never thought I'd have. Because Ben Stein has evolved more than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Woke. I've been woke.
Yeah, you're awake. Okay, they're woke. We're awake, baby. You could find us on Apple Podcasts. You could find us on Parler when it is working, and you can find us on Ben's email, benstein.substack.
Can I go back something a bit? What does it mean when you say Parler isn't working? How can a giant?
Okay, we're about to get into that. That was you're stealing my thunder. But Parler, the site is down. The app is down. It's been down. It might be back up now. I'm not sure. My next question is: Roger Ailes, Rush Limbaugh were pioneers in a land. They saw an open, just like Bugsy Siegel, everybody saw sand and he saw millions and billions. They were visionaries. Where the heck are the social media visionaries in the Republican Party or the conservative movement? We know that there's money. We know that there are really smart people. Why could they not get together, Ben? And I pose this question to any of you, and get a foothold. There's 75 million Americans that voted for President Trump. That is a huge market of people that you could go after. Why are they not doing this?
I do not understand it at all. I don't understand.
Because I don't understand
why there's no major newspaper that's aimed at conservatives. I mean, the Wall Street Journal has 2 pages that are, but not reliably. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question, Ben, but it's a little sort of, it's these days, I'm not saying this in a joking way. It's sort of an outdated format. The written paper, they're sort of on their last legs. But I go to you, Rob Kendall. Why could we not figure, what is this about? Parler being down, you have these alt apps like Gab and all these different things. What is it that we cannot have our own? I don't even want to say our own, just a place where we could go. I mean, what is it?
Well, first of all, let me say I love that Ben still has an AOL email address. That makes me very happy to know that Ben is still using AOL.
Well, why should I change it?
No, you shouldn't. I think it's great. That made my night to hear that. It's interesting.
Okay, now hold on one second. Let me just get to this guy's response. You talk about soldiers like you know why we serve, what we do, how we think. You have no idea on those points unless you have done it. I don't think any of us shared that except for Gary, who actually served.
Well, with the greatest respect, I've spent a large part of my life talking to my father-in-law and my uncle, who are career military men, especially my father-in-law. And I think I know very well why people serve. And with all due respect, the idea that you do and I've spent so many years talking to them, don't. I think it is a bit, what should I say, selfish on your part.
Or condescending, or you're sort of narcissistic that we can't think of a certain thing because we don't do it. I just don't get that. But I respect it. Thank you for serving. I respect your opinion. We all do. And Gary served too. And that's why I go to Gary and I defer to him on these things sometimes because, but sorry, Rob.
No, I think it's great. And look, the story that I revealed is just my personal contacts of people that I spent a lot of time at a lot of bars with who came home. I mean, it's, that's their story. And maybe that person had a great time over there. I don't know. I mean, maybe they felt like it was a super noble cause. I struggle as an American taxpayer to think that the financial or human toll was worth it, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, and thank that person for serving.
Hey, Billy Joel wouldn't have any music if he wasn't able to get into other people's souls and lives. I mean, he didn't work in Allentown. He definitely wasn't a fisherman from down Easter Alexa. He never lived in Leningrad. And I could go down the list of, he was the piano man. Yes, we know that. But that's part of life. And part of creativity is imagining yourself in somebody else's shoes. But I want to get back to this point, Gary Collins. It's like this mass, there's still, the internet is still a vast, there's so much room. How come we can't get a foothold in this space? I don't understand it.
Well, the left, the far left and the dippy hippies, not the redneck hippies like me, they own the technology. So it makes it very difficult for anyone who is not on their team, basically, to get in. And we saw what they did with Parler, which was fairly shocking. And Parler got my website taken down because I was getting traffic from Parler. Told you guys that story. And then I was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, and we talked about whether the election was rigged at the same time. And I got, literally, my website got taken out.
And remember, we all agree on this show that it wasn't.
Hey, Gary, what's he like in person? He seems like an eccentric cat.
What was that, Rob?
What is Norrie like in person? He seems like an eccentric fellow.
Oh, I've never met him. It's always over, it's on the show. I'm not there. I'm not physically
there. But here's the thing. It's not an answer because all of them are. If that was the metric, Roger Ailes never would have created Fox News. Where are the pioneers? We know all you need is servers. All you need is brainiacs. You've met quite a few of them recently, Gary. All you need is visionaries. Where the freak are our visionaries?
I don't know. I think we were asleep at the wheel. I honestly do. I think most people sat back and they had a master plan. They were very smart, and they've been planning this for decades. I mean, this originated in the 50s and 60s. They had a plan. The Salinsky's rules for radicals. I mean, they've been doing the playbook play by play, and we watched it happen, and we sat back, and then all of a sudden we go, wait, hold on a second. Wait, you can take our websites down? Holy shit. What was I thinking? But it's starting to change. I know some people who are in technology, and it's starting to shift. It's starting to, but they own a great deal of the infrastructure. They own a lot of the cloud. What are you going to do? A lot of the hosting's on the cloud now. So we got to play catch up.
Yes, we got to.
I don't even know what we is anymore. I'm just saying honest people who believe in who
believe in absolute free speech. Ben, this is the point. Yeah. We're not asking for a Republican website or a Republican search engine. We're asking for a free and fair search engine. We're asking for free and fair sites, not sites that are for Republican only. Just free and fair.
We thought that, as one of the panelists said a few days ago, that the Supreme Court had said that in certain situations, the First Amendment applied against private persons who suppress speech. There's a wonderful case, which I believe our very good friend Ben Boychuk sent me, a wonderful case, which seems to me to make it quite clear that the Supreme Court should find that these enormous private behemoths on the internet should be held to First Amendment standards. But our present Supreme Court has not seen fit to do so. I do not know why. The Supreme Court is made up of men and women who are cowards and sometimes brave, just like everyone else. But we seem to have run into a very timid Supreme Court at this point.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly, Rob, that we have a timid Supreme Court. And I think it's time that if we ever have the chance to get another Supreme Court justice in, we not listen to the Federalist Society. I mean, how many times can you listen to the same jackass society and go, insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and getting different results. We have listened to the Federalist Society. And it's like, who the hell is the Federalist Society? It sounds good.
Yeah, it's
and some of them have been very good. I mean, it's only sort of recently that we've had a very problematic Chief Justice that things have really shifted in a very worrisome way in terms of conservative issues coming before the court. I mean, since Mr. Roberts became Chief Justice, the court has really not behaved, not just in a conservative way, but like courts of appeal usually do.
If there was a guy, a human being that summed up the Bush administration, wouldn't it be John Roberts?
Yes. A very sad persona, I think. I mean, I'm sure he has every reason in the book for what he's doing. He doesn't want his house to be picketed. He doesn't want his wife and children to be threatened. But that's not supposed to be the way it is.
Then resign. Then leave. It's part of the job.
But I also want to bring this up about the Bushes. It's not just one Bush; it's both Bushes. Both of them made horrific Supreme Court picks, and the second one that was so horrific, and I'm not referring to Clarence Thomas. And I'm sorry.
Clarence Thomas has been great.
I said I'm not referring to Clarence Thomas. I'm referring to the other guy that I can't remember his name right now, who decided to resign, who was so liberal, but he decided to resign under giving Obama an extra
Souter.
pick.
That was the guy from New Hampshire.
Souter. That's how bad of a job he did. But on that note, if you just tuned in, sorry, Rob.
Well, I was just going to say, you think about Bush, though, the second pick was great. Alito's been awesome.
Yes.
How could you pick two guys so different?
Alito, but even Alito, interestingly enough, did not find anything to question in all the cases, dozens of cases brought before the Supreme Court about the election. Not one thing to question. That's very unusual.
No, the whole thing, Ben. It's a line from Good Will Hunting. They're suspect. They're all suspect. I got to tell you, you're suspect. You in the Supreme Court, you're suspect. I don't think there's any other way of putting it right now. We know how Larry Klayman thinks about the Supreme Court. He wrote a book about it called Whores. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We do appreciate the comment sections. You don't always have to agree with us. You don't always have to like us. But that's the whole point of a show like this, is that we all have differing opinions sometimes. And we do believe in discourse, whether you agree or don't. You're all welcome to the party, and that's what makes it fun. You can get our sorry?
Party hardy again.
Party hardy, GOP. GOP in the house, yo. Mitch McConnell represent. I don't know what I'm saying, but it is Saturday night, and we are going to play Trivial Ben. That's where everybody gets a chance to be Rob Kendall and ask Ben anything they want about his life, about who, just anything. So, Rob, as you always have a million questions to ask Ben, I go to you first.
Ben, last week you were kind enough to tell us your amazing Elvis at the White House story, which was totally awesome.
Great.
I'm curious, of all the people you met at the White House, who were you most in awe of? Who were you most excited to meet?
Nixon by far. I mean, Nixon, I think, was the greatest president of the 20th century. And I was in awe of him every time I saw him. And I only saw him a few times to have a conversation with him at the White House, very few times. But I saw him, I'm happy to say, considerably more once he left office. And he was extremely impressive, intelligent, kind-hearted, good-natured, extremely compassionate, And as a Jew, I will say, despite the fact that there were so many Jews who hated him, incredibly, incredibly kind-hearted about Israel and about the Jewish people generally. I've never seen anything like him anytime, anyone in politics. I mean, the fact to me, this is just me, the fact that the entire Jewish people in America did not support Nixon is just incomprehensible. I don't understand. He inspired me and moved me very deeply. The day he resigned, and you can see this if you put it up on YouTube. You can see me, the very much younger me, standing quite close to him, crying and chewing gum at the same time. I really have hardly ever shed so many tears in my life when Nixon left office.
What about you, Gary? What do you got for Ben?
At what point did you realize you were a celebrity?
Oh, good question.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm a very small scale celebrity, but thank you very much. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer, but it's a very good question. I think it's. I wish I could say it's when people started giving me free meals at really nice restaurants, but that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know when it is.
Well, you're more than a celebrity. You're an icon, Ben. You know that. You're iconoclast, and you're bigger than celebrity. You're Rob, you're up next.
Ben, I'm curious if you could tell us maybe about a couple of your interactions with President Reagan. I'm sure you had some, and
I only had a couple of them. The best one was really good, was when Mr. Reagan and I both spoke at the Bel Air Republican Women's Club, and we had the event at the that very nice country club in Pacific Palisades, of which I used to be owner of the club. I can't remember his name now, but anyway, and I gave a speech, and he gave a speech, and he came up to me afterwards and said, "You're really good with your speaking. Did you write that speech yourself?" And I said, "Yes, I am a speechwriter." He said, "Would you like to work on my campaign?" This was the 1980 campaign. And I said, "No, I'm already committed to working for Mr. Bush. He's a longtime family friend." And he said, "Well, can I use your phrase, 'Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?'" And I said, "Well, of course you can." So that was that. And then another time.
Well, that was you?
Yes, that was my phrase. And then another time was when we had a dinner of some conservative group in Washington, but I don't remember what it was. But anyway, some conservative group, and he was there. And incredibly, he remembered the event when he had asked me to come work on his campaign, and I had turned him down. And he said, "Are you sorry you turned me down?" I said, "Very much so."
That's amazing. It's the genius gump.
Ben Stein won the presidency for Reagan.
He's won. Ben Stein could have won the presidency for a lot of people. Somebody asked, I mean, I know the answer to this, but was Jimmy Carter really that bad of a president or bad luck?
Well, there used to be a magazine called Penthouse, and it was in competition with Playboy, but it had more risque pictures, but it also had very good articles. And I, your humble servant, wrote articles for them. And I never wrote any sex articles. I don't know enough about sex to write any sex articles. But I wrote an article for them during the 76 campaign, which was called, "If You Like Richard Nixon, You'll Love Jimmy Carter." And I went through his resume and documented lie after lie after lie he had told. He was never a peanut farmer. He was never a nuclear engineer. He did almost nothing that he claimed he had done. He just made up his whole resume and his whole life. And that was terribly contemptuous of the American voter. And when he was talking about Israel, he always spoke in terms of great contempt. And at some point, one of his aides during the campaign said, "Well, the Jews are not going to like this." And he said, "I don't care what the Jews think. I only care about what the Christians think." And that's fine. He's allowed to do that, but it's kind of raw.
Okay, but that's Ben. Somebody asked how did you always learn to say something nice before you disagree with somebody?
I learned that from I don't know where I learned that, but God bless you. I don't know. I don't know, but
That wasn't me asking. That's somebody in the chat that was
that person very nice.
that asked that asked that question.
God bless you, whoever that is, madam or sir.
I mean, we're having some technical difficulties tonight, and we apologize. Ben's audio is a little.
But wait a minute, Jeff. They're saying my audio is screwed up here.
It's fine. It's fine. We're almost. Gary, you're up next.
Do you have any odd hobbies that we don't know about?
But I am not allowed to talk about them on the air. I do not want to get taken off the air. But the main thing I like to do late at night is just lie in bed and watch documentaries about World War I and World War II while holding my wife's hand, and then fall asleep while holding my wife's hand. And that's aside from work, eat, drive around. I have many, many houses. Driving from one house to the other is pretty much a full-time job. I'm soon going to not have that many houses. I just don't have the strength of either capital or physical strength to take care of so many houses. But in the meantime, I just wander around like the wandering Jew from house to house, and that's a hobby.
Do you still get royalties?
No, it's been a long time since I've gotten any royalties.
You get little checks.
Wait, I do. You're right. I do on some of my books. I get very small royalties. You're right. I do.
No, but you get them from old movies and TV.
No, movies.
They'll be like 32 cents.
No, very small ones. But from some of the books, like How to Ruin Your Life, Bunkhouse Logic, some of the Capitalist Code. The Capitalist Code is a book, Your Humble Servant, moi.
It's a brilliant book.
About investing. Warren Buffett. I sent it to Warren Buffett, and he said, "There's not one word in this book with which I disagree." So I was very, very proud of that. And yes, I will still probably die broke under a homeless tent, but I did have some good ideas.
Judah, I have to get this in because I had several people ask me to ask Ben if that's okay about this.
I don't care. Ask whatever you want.
You met Carmen Electra, right?
Yeah, I had her on my show.
That's what it turned Ben Stein on, right?
Did she?
Attractive woman.
There are so.
Did she?
Did she what?
Turn Ben Stein on. But Rob, your question.
There are so many.
Incredibly good.
There are so many people who want to know about what it was like to interview Carmen Electra.
She was great, and she was very beautiful and very friendly and nice. And that's one of the great things about living in Hollywood is there are a lot of beautiful women and the girls, and I like that a lot. Really, really a lot. Really, really, really a lot.
Who actually was your favorite interview? Because you got to interview Charlie Sheen, Henry Rollins. You got to interview a diverse group of pretty damn cool people.
Probably, as you say it, probably Charlie Sheen, because he and I have many of the same interests. Rollerblading,
cocaine, hookers, the typical stuff.
You're both choir boys. Yes, you and Charlie Sheen have a lot in common. Ben had said one time to me, I got to say this. He was referencing
we lost the connection.
Charlie Sheen, a Charlie Sheen quote, and I had said I think it's still too early to be quoting Charlie Sheen guides to how to live life. Gary, you got any more? Rob?
Go ahead, Gary.
No, Gary doesn't have any. I have a question for you, Gary. What are we looking out on over your shoulder there?
The forest.
Oh, but
mountains.
There's not a big body of water there?
There is, but I don't think you can see it from it's over here. You can't see it behind me. That's a deck.
To your right, to your left, sir. What is that? Is that
that's a deck. Yeah, that's my deck. I mean, it's my edgeless pool, my infinity pool that I have upstairs outside my mansion.
So Ben, last question of the evening. Who would you like to meet?
Like what?
Who would you like to meet?
That is a good question.
Not eat.
Dominique Swain. Dominique Swain. Yes, Dominique Swain.
Oh my God. That's such an easy, you know what? She's probably on that app. What's it called? It's the
Cameo.
She's probably on Cameo. If people aren't familiar, she probably is on Cameo. And if people aren't familiar with,
she's the best actress I have ever seen in any movie. And she's from Malibu. And when she was a young high school girl, I used to see her in line ahead of me at Howe's Market. And I remember thinking, wow, what a beautiful young woman. And she became a big star in one movie, but it was the ultimate movie. And she was so good and it was unbelievable. And unfortunately, after that, she did lots and lots of movies. She was certainly not a has-been, but nothing compared with Lolita. She was the ultimate Lolita.
Most people wouldn't be able to say who Dominique Swain was, but I love your commitment to her.
Second version of Lolita. The first one was good too, but Sue Lyon played in that. But this Dominique Swain was so good, it was unbelievable.
Gary, somebody wants to know what, I don't want to comment, Ben. Well, somebody wants to know what beer you drink, Gary.
What beer?
Yeah.
Any free beer that someone gives me?
Yeah. And on that note, that was a great answer. Gary is not picky about his beer. Rob, I love that your fans have questions for Ben and your father and everybody. And I want to thank everybody for all the questions. It's really fun reading this. It's nice to see this stuff. Sorry if we've had some audio issues tonight. We will be working on those in the future. We'll be working on a lot of things. We have a website that we're in the process of building. So stay with us. We'll stay with you. You could find Ben Stein on benstein.substack.com. You can find them, of course, at spectator.org. You can find them occasionally. Newsmax, great article that's coming out or is out about Bitcoin. You could find, and now you can find them on Cameo. You could find Rob. And people have asked, where's Mock? From the Mock and Rob show, and she's always welcome to come, Rob. Don't feel like if you invite, you could both be on at the same time. She won't steal your thunder. Mock and Rob are both welcome here anytime.
She is my hot older co-host, but she goes to bed at like 8:30. So, but she said she's willing to stay up till 10 for Ben.
Well, apparently not. That's, I mean, like, everybody's willing to do something. They don't do it. Right. It's the doing it part. It's it's like that Seinfeld episode, you know, when he reserved the car and they didn't have it. And he's like, so you could take a reservation, but you're not fulfilling the reservation. So Rob, get Mock on. I'm interested. How do people find your show?
Weekdays, 9 until noon, the Mock and Rob Show, 93.1 WIBC, BAM, WIBC.com.
Can you please let me do that one? I want to do one promo.
Let's all do it. BAM.
Yeah, like 93. Yeah, like, could we do it right now, Rob?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so it's not, remember, so it's 93.1 WIBC, BAM, the future of conservative talk radios. Does everybody have it?
Yes.
Everybody do it? You got Gary, you ready?
Gary didn't do it.
Gary, you ready?
What are we doing?
We're all going to say 93.1 WIBC, BAM, the future of conservative talk radio.
I'm not remembering that.
Okay.
Well, there you go. All right. It's
okay, so on that note,
fool about my money, don't try to save. Hard say go, have a ball, cause Saturday night. Baby, I'll have it all. I'm going to rip it up. I'm going to rock it up. I'm going to rip it up and ball tonight.
Oh, baby.